We start in the NBA, where the Warriors have won 4 championships over the last 8 years. One of them before Kevin Durant, 2 of them with Kevin Durant, and now one of them since. Friday, here on this show on Get Up, Charles Barkley was talking about KD's legacy now that his old team has returned to the top of the mountain. Here's what he said.
Before KD gets that great respect from all the old heads, he's going to have to win a championship as the bus driver. Listen, he joined that team had already won a championship, so no disrespect, that's just a fact. But until he is the guy on a championship team, we're not going to ever give him the respect, that he probably deserves. And that's just the way it is. And like I say, the game hasn't changed. Kobe said it, LeBron said it. And so we're going to hold him to the same high standard.
So that was Sir Charles with us the other day. Now, Kevin Durant, who frequently seems to have plenty of time to just get into conversations on Twitter, someone tweeted at him, and again, by someone, I don't mean a famous person, just some person tweeted at Kevin Durant that his legacy has died. And Durant tweeted, "I've been dead since July 4th, 2016, but congrats to the Dubs and my boy Steezy, a Fillmore legend. Man been waiting his whole life for a parade on Market Street." Now, July 4th, 2016, for those who don't know, is the day that it was announced that he was signing with the Warriors when he met up with all those guys in the Hamptons. So, again, we will have Big Perk with us a little bit later, but Timmy Legs is here. But, CJ, I will start with you. The idea that Barkley is suggesting, and that Durant is obviously sensitive to, that he will not get his full respect until he is driving the bus on a championship team. Do you buy it?
I strongly disagree with Charles Barkley here. Obviously, he's a legend in his own right. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was the bus driver, however, he didn't win a championship. And I think in KD's case, it was different. Obviously, he joined a very, very good team with championship caliber roster, very deep, but he was the bus driver of that team. Obviously, you got Steph Curry, 2-time MVP, unanimous, but he averaged 30 points, 7 rebounds, 4.5 assists in his 15 games in his finals career. He showed that he has the ability to take over games late. He was about to win a 3rd straight finals MVP before he ended up getting hurt against the Raptors. But I think his resume speaks for itself. There's no blemishes on it. Obviously, a lot of people aren't happy with the decision that he made July 4th, but it is what it is, and I think that made him a better basketball player.
Well, let me ask you this, because I don't agree with what you're saying, but the one thing I didn't do when you did was play against them. Yeah. So when you played against the Warriors at that time, the KD Warriors, was he the best? Was he? Best is really maybe not the right word I'm looking for. Was that his team? Were those KD's teams?
Best is subjective. Obviously, with Steph Curry's team, he was there first. The organization, the fans, they loved him more, if you will, because he was there, he was drafted, he was homegrown. But obviously, they respected and embraced KD. But I think down the stretch of games, you see who they were going to. He's 7 foot. He does a lot of the things Steph Curry's able to do. However, he's a 7-foot version. And I think people get caught up in comparisons a thief of joy. They're both very good in their own right. Steph is arguably, top 10 greatest players of all time after his last run, as Charles talked about. He was the bus driver on this team, and he took them to the finals and won the finals in games in which sometimes he didn't even have help.
Let me get Tim Legler in here, because you are, I hate to say it, Tim, but you and I pretty much do constitute the old heads that Charles Barkley is talking about now. Does KD need to drive a bus for you to give him the respect he wants?
Greeny, first of all, it's okay for you to call me an old head. I would not be happy if CJ did that, man. That would not be cool. But listen, you can call me that. And I get it. Look, here's a mixed bag here. Here's if we're going to use the bus driver analogy, here's how I would describe it. Kevin Durant was definitely the bus driver on those 2 teams that won championships, but he borrowed somebody else's bus. That's the way I would look at it, because they had already won a championship, right, with Steph Curry. If they had not won a championship to that point, then I think this is a moot conversation, but they had. So Kevin Durant comes in, they win 2 more. He was the best player on those teams. He was the guy driving the bus on those teams. He had an answer offensively that other guys just didn't have because of his length and his ability to shoot mid-range shots over any defense in front of him. But I also agree with some of what Barkley is saying in terms of you can't just say that every championship carries the same weight. They don't. We all know that. They get ranked differently. They have more substance to them. And so the fact that Kevin Durant went to a ready-made winner, and even though he won a couple of times, I think there is still something left for him to answer. And I think that's what Charles Barkley was saying. If he really wants to get that level of credit, that top-tier respect that Barkley's alluding to, then it's going to have to go down a different way than joining a team that had already won a championship, that was arguably the best team in the NBA, and then just making them unbeatable for a couple years.
I really like the way he put that, to be honest with you, because, yeah, he was driving it, but it wasn't a bus. Everyone else was driving a bus, and Kevin Durant he got in like what's a very fast car? I don't know, a Mercedes? He was driving a much faster car than a bus, and maybe that is actually a better way to put it. He might have been the best player on the team, but he joined the team that had won 73 games. It isn't diminishing how good a player he is to suggest that in order for that to be regarded in the same way that we regard what Steph just did or what LeBron did in Cleveland in 16 or whatever it is, that he has to do that. If he does it in Brooklyn now, I think it'll feel completely different.
I think people will always judge him based on what he did. Obviously, some people would like to see him drive a bus of his own car, in a sense, in terms of not joining a team that's already won. And I think he's going to be in position to do that with a healthy roster, with a healthy team around him, obviously going forward. But I think for me, as a guy who's not an old head, right, as a young head who's 30, a young head who's 30 and played against him and watched how he works, watched the way he approaches the game, watched how skilled and polished he is. If he never wins another championship, I still know that he's one of the greatest players of all time. Charles Barkley knows that. The Warriors fans know that. Brooklyn fans know that. Everybody knows that. And I think it's all subjective because people are going to continue to compare rosters. They're going to compare eras. And it's too much. It's too complicated. We should just respect his greatness, respect Steph Curry's greatness, and all the other greats that have come before us and all the other greats that will come after us.
That's fair. But I think the only pushback I would give you is no one's debating his greatness. Like, his greatness is signed, sealed, and delivered. That's for sure. Now we're talking about tiny little micro fractions of difference here and there, because Kevin Durant is one of those rare players that you do put into the conversation. Well, wait a minute. If he does this, do we start comparing him to LeBron? Do we start comparing him to Michael Jordan? He's that kind of good. He has earned that, which is, again, why I continue to say why he's responding to people on Twitter regularly. I have no earthly idea. We can talk about that another time. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.